Oasis. Practical Wisdom with Scott Allen.
Hello, I am Scott Allen, and thanks to my daughter Kate for developing the intro to the Practical Wisdom for Leaders podcast, where we offer a smart, fast-paced discussion on all things leadership. My guests help us explore timely topics and incorporate practical tips to help you make a difference in how you lead and live. If you haven't done so, please click subscribe so you automatically, seamlessly stay in the know when we publish new episodes. Likewise, please provide me with feedback. What do you like? What do you dislike? And what else would you like to know? And now, today's show. My guest today is Sara Sufari. She has an incredible story, and I cannot wait to jump into this conversation because what we're featuring today is a woman who is out there making a difference in the world, doing the work, so to speak. A lot of our podcasts focus on theory. We feature professors who are translating theory. And this is a woman who is actually out in the world making things happen, making a difference. And so I can't wait. And you're combining two things I love, Sara. You're combining climbing and mountains with leadership and doing good in the world. And so congratulations. Good for you. I can't wait to dive in. Why don't we start with you sharing a little bit about you? And then from there, maybe we jump into the story. Sound good?
Sounds great. So first of all, nice to meet you here. And I'm so happy to be on this podcast. A little bit about me. I moved to the United States 18 years ago with my family, with not knowing the language, the culture. I only knew the United States from the movies, from Hollywood, maybe like the 20 movies that I watched all my life until that point. And that was it. And my family decided to bring my siblings and I to the United States because they wanted us to have a better future, more opportunities. And I had no idea what I'm going to do here. I just thought, I was good at math and physics. I thought I'm just going to do that for the rest of my life. I'm going to get a job, then get some money, have a good income, get a car, get a house, get married, have 2 kids, and that's about it. That's the end of
it. And then
none of that
happened. Well, and I'm scared to ask what some of the movies you had seen before you got to the United States that informed your impression.
I love Terminator, Shark, all those crazy action movies. I love those. Right now, I cannot watch any of them, but I mean, they're not satisfying enough. But back then, I loved those.
Oh, wow. Well, good. And so then you in recent years, well, fast forward a little bit. So You go to college, correct?
Yeah, I went to UCLA, studied electrical engineering, bachelor's and master's. And then I worked in 2 different companies. And then at one point in life, I realized this is not big enough. I'm satisfied, but not as much as I wanted to. There's so much more out there.
Yeah.
And one of my advisors and professors at UCLA and also at work, my boss told me that I lack self-confidence, I'm too shy, and I need to work on that.
Mm.
And then that was when I decided to take the seminar. It was a leadership seminar, and it was just a 3-day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday seminar called Landmark Worldwide. And I took the seminar, and the leader of the seminar said, come up with a project so big and huge beyond yourself, something impossible.
Mm.
And I couldn't think of doing anything impossible. And somebody behind me started talking about Everest. And I just heard the word Everest and I thought, oh my God, this is perfect. I don't know anyone in my family or extended family who have ever hiked. I've never been camping before.
Oh,
I don't own a pair of hiking boots. I've never slept in a sleeping bag. I hate cold weather. I'm scared of cockroaches and spiders. this is perfect impossible. I'm 100% sure this is impossible.
Wow.
And I announced that I'm going to do that.
Wow. So you announced, I'm going for Everest first.
Yeah, I had no idea what it takes. I had no idea, zero information. I'd never even heard about anybody else in the whole world who have done it. So I zero research. I just said I want to do it because it sounded like a very impossible thing.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and I went home and I Googled how to climb Everest. And very first link I started reading, it said it takes 60 days. And that's when I decided to quit, because I thought, who goes hiking for 60 days? I mean, I can't even go for 2 hours.
So there isn't like I think I just downloaded the other day a couch to 10K. You know, it'll train you for 15 weeks to run a 10K. So there wasn't a couch to Mount Everest plan that existed, right?
No.
Wasn't there?
No, it wasn't there. But you know what? Finally, when I started hiking and climbing, just a little bit mountain by mountain, I kept failing and failing and failing. I never made it to any of the mountains. I have some stories that I shared in my book and on my social media about the number of times that I failed, and the pictures and videos of me crying and quitting. But then there was one specific day that I finally decided to 100% quit mountain climbing and put it aside and get rid of all my gear. And it was only 6 months into my decision.
Wow.
And that was the day that I met the founder of organization Empower Nepali Girls.
Okay.
And he told me the story of the girls who become victims of human trafficking or forced to get married at a very young age. And I kind of surprised myself again when I announced that I'm going to go back to my training for Everest again. But this time I'm going to raise $1 per foot of any mountain that I climb to provide education for these girls.
Wow. Wow. So you have the objective mission, but then you have another mission that's incredibly important, which is helping these young women.
Yeah. And the funny thing was, I had no idea how to climb. That until that point, I never summited any mountains in my life. And now I just had a whole list of mountains to climb and be successful and make it to the top, to make sure that I'm raising funds for these girls. So it wasn't about me anymore at this point.
Yeah.
It was all about something, some people, some strangers that I haven't met. I don't even know their language. I don't even know their culture until I met them, actually.
Well, so tell me about the moment from a climbing perspective where you thought, wow, maybe I can do this. Was there a summit that you achieved where your confidence started to build? And how many years into your endeavor was this period?
2 weeks.
Really?
So, yeah. So from the moment that I heard the stories of the girls who become victims of human trafficking, there was climbing season in Argentina. And I was supposed to go and climb the highest peak in South America, Aconcagua, which is 23,000 feet.
Wow.
So imagine, for somebody who hasn't ever made it to the top of any mountain, now I'm going to Aconcagua, which is, 23,000 feet is very high.
Yes, you're not playing around at that point.
Yeah. But the good thing about that mountain is it's not very technical. It's hiking, but hiking in a very high elevation.
Okay. So it may be somewhat similar to Kilimanjaro. I imagine of all of them, Kilimanjaro it's not easy, but it's the easiest of them, of the 7 peaks.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's like Kilimanjaro, 4,000 feet more.
Okay.
Yeah. And it takes longer. Kilimanjaro takes 7 days. Aconcagua takes 20 days round trip.
Okay. So you get there. You have 20 days round trip to do this climb.
Yeah.
You do it. You make it.
Yeah. And I made it to the top. This is my very first summit. And I didn't feel bad. I didn't feel the altitude. I was extremely strong. I just thought, oh my God, I can actually, this is possible. I can do this.
Yes.
And then that I didn't have the courage to take the flag of Empower Nepali Girls to that mountain because I wasn't sure that I can make it or not. And I didn't want to, I just thought that's not a good idea to advertise a lot because I wasn't sure about myself. I didn't have the confidence.
Sure.
And the moment that I was standing on the top and I knew this is possible, that's when I started fundraising like crazy because now I
Wow.
knew I'm going for it.
Wow. So it's almost like a mindset shift of, okay, I've had this win. Now I can set my sights on something bigger.
Yeah.
And there must have been almost an identity shift of, did you start even kind of thinking of yourself as a climber at that point?
I still didn't think of myself as a climber because we didn't climb. We were just hiking. It was just walking. So I had to climb a bunch of other mountains in between Aconcagua and Everest to practice a lot of ice climbing, glacier, ice walking, using ice axe and crampons to feel more confident.
Okay.
And then after all of that, especially after that, I climbed Chuoyu. Chuoyu is 27,000 feet, and most of it is ice climbing.
Okay,
So
now where is that mountain for our listeners?
Chuoyu is in China. It's in Himalayas. It's very close to Everest, and it's on the border of China and Nepal. So when you stand on top of Chuoyu, the first thing that you see is Everest, like just next to you. It's so close that you feel like I'm just going to jump and stand on the summit of Everest and be done with this.
That would be awesome, wouldn't it?
I wish I had wings.
Now, how long did that climb take?
45 days.
45 days. And now at this point, have you met any of the young women that you're doing this work for?
Yes. So
would you tell me the story of the first time? Well, it was a gentleman that you had met who had founded this organization, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
And so tell me about the first time you actually start meeting these young women.
So I went to Nepal, and the president of the organization was supposed to come to my hotel, pick me up, and take me to school, one of the schools, because there are 14 different locations that the girls are getting education. This one was just one of the schools.
Okay.
And he picked me up with his small car. It was a Nepali car. And we arrived at the place like 5 minutes from my hotel. And the doors opened and there was 2 lines of students, like girls, little girls. Like, I want to say they look like they're 5 years old, but they are just very small in size. So they were like 8 years old, but they look like a 5-year-old.
Okay.
And they were standing, they were holding flowers in their hands. And some of them, they were holding katas. Kata is a shawl that is like a scarf that is blessed by Dalai Lama. And then, so they were holding that. And I walked in, and there's these 2 lines, and each one is stepping in front of me, either give me a flower or put a scarf around my neck. And they were saying namaste, which means I see the light in you. Or they were saying thank you for helping us. And I started crying. I completely lost it. And that was right before Chuoyu. This was the first day of my 45-day trip, top of Chuoyu and back. So that whole 45 days on Chuoyu, there were days that I was crying in my tent because I couldn't take it anymore. I was just tired. I was sick. I was coughing. I just wanted to go back home. And I would think of that moment when I saw the 2 lines of girls and they were looking at me like I'm going to fix their life for them. And I would just imagine those girls, and I couldn't quit. I just had to take the next step. And there were days that I was like crying as I was climbing because I was just so tired. That picture saved me the whole time.
So tell me a story from Choyu that maybe represents a breakthrough. And I know that you mentioned that you'd look at the picture of the girls, or that you would think about the girls, and that would help motivate you. Was there any other breakthrough that you had on that mountain that again then maybe even helped you kind of conceptualize Everest?
I can tell a lot of stories. I'm trying to pick which one would be the best one. One of them was really shocking. There were so many times that I was 100% sure I'm done and I cannot take one more step. I just couldn't find a little bit of energy inside me to take the next step. So I would stand at 25,000 feet and have a huge discussion, argument with myself about what are you doing here? And it took me 12 seconds to convince myself to take one step. And I would take one step, and then I would have another argument with myself about, okay, that was next for the next one. So it was just when it was done and finished, and I was sitting in my tent after the summit, I just realized that our body has so much potential and we have no idea. We can do so much when we think this is it. We don't have enough energy. And so what really transformed, to answer your question, when I'm here on the ground and there is a pandemic and I have to stay at home for months and months, I just think about the mountains, and I think about the times that I was stuck in my tent during a storm. I didn't have food or water. I couldn't use the toilet. I haven't showered for days and days and weeks. But I was still continuing on, and I still made it to the top of the mountain and came back. So now during the pandemic, I couldn't complain. I'm like, do you have shower? Yes. Do you have restroom? Yes. Do you have a bed and pillow? Yes. Okay, don't complain.
Just take your next step and you'll be okay. Right. And there's as we're speaking, I'll put it in the show notes, but the leadership scholar is escaping my mind, but he was the CEO of Medtronic. And he had a quote that I loved, which is, the hardest person you'll ever lead is yourself.
Exactly.
And so in that moment, I mean, I have so much respect. I have watched film after film after film about these mountains, whether it's, North Face or shorts that are on YouTube, or some of the larger films by that feature Alex Honnold, or any of the other famous climbers that and incidents, right? The Krakauer book. And so I have so much respect for that story. And so for any of our listeners who have no concept of what we're discussing right now, gosh, Sara, can you think of a film that we could point listeners to just at this point in the film to help them understand? Is it Meru? That's kind of an interesting film that features some individuals summiting a mountain for the first time in the Himalayas. Yeah, maybe we point listeners to that film.
Or the movie Everest, the movie that came out in 2015. Yeah.
Okay, good. Because this is not a walk in the park. This is incredibly difficult stuff. And when you even look at some of the statistics on K2, a certain percentage of people are not successful and don't come home when trying to attempt that mountain. Yeah. And you're successful. It's an incredible win. Tell us a little bit more about what happens next. You meet the young women.
Yeah, I met them, and that increased my motivation triple thousand times. And now I knew why I'm doing what I was doing. I increased my training. Now I was done. I was at 27,000 feet, and the next mountain was Everest. So I had the confidence. I knew that I'm ready for Everest. If I made it 45 days and 27,000 feet, next one is just 60 days and 29,000 feet.
Nice.
So I was ready. I was confident. I increased my training. I increased my fundraising. It was just, I was on top of it until a 7.8 earthquake happened.
So now you're fast forwarding to you're actually on Everest at this point, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you train, you get back to Nepal,
Yeah.
you get to
Yeah.
base camp.
Yeah.
And how high up are you when the earthquake hit?
It's 20,000 feet right above the base camp, because base camp is 17,000, and it takes 10 days to get to the base camp, and it takes 10 days to practice crossing ladders in Khumbu Icefall.
Yes.
Khumbu Icefall is the most dangerous part of Everest. For people who don't know about it, just Google it and you'll see crazy pictures of this piece of mountain. It's the most dangerous, the most unstable part of Everest, but the most beautiful part of the mountain. There are glaciers in the form of pieces of ice, like a 3-floor building, but they look like there was a crazy drunk artist who were making statues with ice and created all those. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. Like the whole time that I was walking, even though I had to cross ladders over these deep crevasses that I can't even see the bottom, but I was in awe of that beauty. So it takes 10 days practicing crossing ladders, because it's just, they are so dangerous, and it needs some time to get used to that. And the ladders are very different. They're 45 degrees, they're flat, some of them are on the walls, and you just need to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until you feel much more comfortable. So that takes 10 days. And after 10 days, it was the time to go up. And that was April 25th, 2015, when we were at 20,000 feet, when a 7.8 earthquake struck Nepal. Yeah. I was on an ice wall. Like, have you watched Game of Thrones?
Yes.
Yeah. So that ice wall that they have, imagine me climbing that. And there were 5 ladders on top of each other. And then there was just a little bit of a gap. And then that was the end of the wall. So I was on top of the 5th ladder, and I was about to finish the wall when the earthquake struck us. And the whole wall started shaking left and right and left and right. And at that point, because the whole mountain was shaking, first I thought, oh, the ladder is loose. But then when I saw so much snow and debris are falling on me and I can't see anything, then I realized, no, this is much bigger than the ladder. And coming from California, the horizontal movement felt like an earthquake.
Wow.
And everything started breaking down. Pieces of ice were falling down the mountain, and the noise that it made was like a rocket taking off. So the noise was extremely scary. I couldn't see anything. I couldn't breathe. Like, breathing at 20,000 feet is really hard. And now add avalanches, like a bunch of avalanches that are happening at the same time all over the mountain to it. So there was so much snow and debris in the air, it was hard to get oxygen in.
Wow.
So I had to climb up past the edge. There was an anchor there. I knew that. So I clipped myself to the anchor, but I knew this is it. This is the end. There is no way that I can survive this. And I was kicking my feet to the snow to fix myself. I was wrapping the rope around my arms. I was clipping myself like twice, 3 times to the anchor. But I knew that I like movies, I saw my life in front of me. I was sad. I was scared. I saw my parents grieving. And there was this moment that I stopped doing anything. And I just knew, this is it. I'm going to fall down. I'm going to bury it alive under the snow. And that's how it's going to finish. And there was this moment of acceptance. I just let go. I allowed myself to just be there for the last moments, and everything stopped. Everything stopped. I could see like the two people in front of me, they were yelling at me, saying things, but I couldn't hear them or understand them. And so the rest of the team were below the ladders. They all gathered up. We all gathered up, and we had to continue up. We couldn't go back down because the ladders were unstable. So we continued up. We got to the next camp, and everybody was so shocked.
So this was Camp 2 at this point?
Camp 1.
Camp 1, okay.
Yeah.
So base camp and then Camp 1, okay.
Yes.
So how many days were you at Camp 1?
For 2 days, we were up there, and then the helicopter rescued us, took us to the base camp. Base camp was even worse because 20 people died there. They got an avalanche. And there were like bodies all over. There were blood on everybody's jacket. It was just crazy, unbelievable, crazy. And then 6 days in the base camp, and then we got another helicopter. We went to a village, and from that village, another helicopter took us to another village. And finally, we got to Kathmandu, capital of Nepal. And at this point, I was extremely angry because I just raised money for the girls to continue their education.
Yeah.
But now they don't even have a home. They don't even have water or food. They don't even have their basic needs met.
Because the earthquake impacted Kathmandu, correct?
Yeah, the epicenter was closer to Kathmandu. So that day, 10,000 people died and 100,000 people became homeless.
Wow. And you're right there at the epicenter of it.
Yeah. And I mean, that was when I decided to dedicate my life to this cause, because I realized, I mean, there was no way that anybody could survive where I was during that earthquake, that crazy earthquake. I mean, Everest has its own risk. Avalanche and earthquake has its own risk. Being on a wall, being on a ladder, being in Khumbu ice wall. If I just multiply all these risks, for somebody like me with not much experience, I mean, I climbed a bunch of mountains, but it's not that I have a lot of experience. So I felt like I got a gift and I need to give that gift back. And then so I announced again, I mean, I was very traumatized after I came back home. I mean, just for your listeners, all the girls are doing well right now. This is 5 years after. So they all have homes and they are back to school, back continuing their education. I mean, other than like this past few months that they've been in lockdown, everybody, the whole world have been in lockdown.
Yeah.
Other than that, they're doing well. So I didn't want to teach the girls to quit.
Okay.
So I decided to go back and climb Everest again. So I announced again that I'm going to go back and climb Everest, and not just Everest. I'm going to add 6 more mountains and 6 more foundations.
I love it. You are incredible. So I'm gonna climb Everest, but I'm also gonna add another 6.
Yeah. Why not?
And so tell us about that. Tell us about that adventure. Where are you on that path?
So I've climbed 6 out of 7.
Really?
Yes. So these are 7 summits, the 7 highest peaks on 7 continents.
Okay. So real quick, tell us a snapshot of each one, if you would.
So Kilimanjaro, the highest in Africa. Elbrus, the highest in Europe, in Russia. In Oceania and Australia, Karsten's Pyramids. In South America, Aconcagua, which was my first mountain, the first summit really. North America, Denali. And Antarctica, Mount Vinson. And the last one, and the first one and the last one that I still haven't summited, Mount Everest, the highest in Asia.
So Everest is still on the list.
Yes.
Tell me about that. Tell me how you're thinking about that right now. Tell me about the women, the young girls in the school. You said that they're doing well. And then I want to come back to the whole conversation around leadership. What have you learned about leadership throughout this whole process? Because obviously there's a lot of leadership occurring on the mountain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's leadership in helping run a nonprofit. There's leadership in just having a vision and a goal and an objective. And so I want to get to that conversation for sure. But so tell us about Everest, and then tell us about the girls, and then we'll talk about leadership.
Yeah. So Everest, I've been attempting to climb it a bunch of other times. After that, a few years after when I tried to climb it, there's some incident always happened that I never could climb it. The recent one this year, I was supposed to go climb it and the pandemic happened. So because of the pandemic,
Okay.
they closed down the mountain. And then once I broke my arm. So I've been attempting to climb Everest, but incidents happen and then I can't. But the interesting thing about Everest is, or any high altitude mountain, it is when you plan to climb them, I need to start at least 6 months before the day because I need to train, I need to prepare, I need to start getting my gear together. So when something like a pandemic happens, it's very last minute. I'm already ready to climb, and then because of pandemic, I have to cancel everything.
Yes. Because it would have been May, right? May.
Yeah, exactly. May we leave in March and we come back in June. But the whole April and May we are on the mountain.
Yeah.
So I've been attempting, haven't climbed it, but I've climbed the 6 other ones, and secretly I love that I haven't reached it to the top of Everest yet, because that gives me an excuse to keep trying. Because for me, it's not about getting to the top of the mountain. For me, it's really the progress, the people that I meet along the way. And I feel like if I get to the top, then I need to start defining a new Everest for myself. And I like that.
I need to have you back, Sara, because to hear about your successful ascent of Everest, but then B, I want to hear your next objective. That's going to be pretty incredible. So tell me about the girls. How are they doing? And tell me about the work and the cause. I'd love to hear that end of all of this.
So that's kind of related to my leadership topic that you want to talk about, which we have Antioch University in common, both of us. And so for my dissertation, which this is what I'm working on right now, I'm creating a leadership. We are creating a leadership workshop with college level girls in Nepal, and we are using participatory action research, which means the participants are a big part of the project in designing the program, creating the program, evaluating the program. And this is theirs. I'm just here as a researcher, and we are helping together as facilitators to create this leadership workshop. And it's been going amazing. I was worried that the pandemic would stop it, but it's been going amazing, actually, way better than that I thought, because we are working online on Zoom together.
Okay.
And that, I think, and that's the great part of this story, because along the way, I got referred to do this PhD project again by the founder of the organization, Dr. Cutler, who originally told me about the girls in Nepal. He also referred me to Antioch University for this PhD program.
Wow.
That's amazing. Yeah, because I really told them I want to create something for these girls so that we can help them, elevate them, take them to the next level. Because they were like me. They were like me when I was back in Iran. They were shy, zero confidence, zero communication skills, zero leadership skills. They didn't even know what they have and how to develop it and where to start, where to go. And I didn't want them to grow up like me and realize at 30 that this is something that is missing. I wanted to give it to them right at 18 when they come out of high school.
Wow.
Before even going to the college. And that's what I'm doing exactly. This is my dream, because this is exactly what I wanted when I was growing up.
Yeah. Oh, what a beautiful story. And so tell me the timeline of your dissertation and then the program. Where are you in the process?
I am actually collecting my data. So I defended my proposal a few months back, I think in May. Yeah, how many months? 2 months ago. And now I'm collecting data. So hopefully in the next few months, I'll be somewhere.
Oh, that is
So we're
wonderful.
closer. I love this research so much. I'm enjoying collecting data so much. I don't want it to end. If I wasn't paying tuition, I would be doing this for the rest of my life.
You needed something else on your plate, so you decided to do a PhD.
Exactly.
Well, I would love to have a quick conversation because we're at 35 minutes, so we'll probably kind of close down here in the next couple minutes. But what if you were to think about the curriculum of what you would kind of share with these young women? What are some components of the curriculum, or what are some ways you think about the design of that work? Because it's a wonderful mission. How do you think about that?
Since it's a participatory action research, this emancipatory side of it makes it really interesting because I have zero, it's kind of zero planning. Everything, it's so lively and everything is happening as it is happening. It's unfolding every day. It's a new thing. We change the topics as we go, and I try to do some research and give them some feedback. But I love how it is so lively and open, and they are collaborating in every single step, and they have the freedom to change anything at any point, because the process is so empowering, and it is giving them so much energy. They always tell me that nobody ever listened to them the way I'm listening to them in the design of this project.
Wow.
And they are so excited. They started the program. They were so shy. They didn't know what to say. They didn't know what to share. And now they are monsters. They are so confident. They are just amazing. I'm in awe of their confidence and the way they are. So I go to them for motivation now. Even if it might seem like I'm inspiring them, but they're inspiring me all the time.
It goes both ways, doesn't it?
Yeah. And maybe we should have another call, like another podcast session together, and kind of dig deeper and talk more about this. But I think this program, this leadership program that we did at Antioch, it's been so helpful for me and for the girls to take our leadership to the next level. And for me, it's been priceless. So I'm very thankful.
I agree. I'm incredibly thankful for my time at Antioch University. It was a wonderful experience, and mentors that we had there transformed my life for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
And I think what a wonderful opportunity you have to be as instrumental in these women's lives as some of the mentors that you've had along the way, whether that's on the mountain. I'm sure you've had mentors in that space, or mentors elsewhere. And so, but I just I don't have a well formulated thought, but something that came to mind for me when it comes to leader development is, in some ways, it's a parallel to climbing, right? In the beginning, you didn't even know what you didn't know, and you'd never camped. You didn't, and then all of a sudden you start. You are a woman right now who has climbed 6 of the highest peaks in the world. Very few people can say that. And if you think about the beginning of that journey, I'm sure there's been a huge identity shift and an increase in confidence and just a transformation. And I think a lot of times that's what's happening if we're doing leader development well, if it's well designed and it's intentional. I think there's so much opportunity to do great good.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree with you. And walking the talk, like a lot of times I ask the girls, what can I do for you so that we can help the process? And usually they say, the feedback that they tell me is that you have so much energy and motivation, and you always do the things that you say you do. So what we are learning from you is that you walk the talk.
Yep.
And I'm glad that I'm the role model that I never had all my life until I moved to the United States. I'm glad that I am that role model for them, because I mean, I don't have my own kids, but I love it that I get to be that person for them.
Yeah. To be continued, Sara. To be continued. So, real quick, I always have a couple questions at the end of the podcast. So, what are you reading or streaming or listening to that's kind of caught your attention lately? And it doesn't have to have anything to do with what we've just discussed.
I recently listened to this book on my Audible. I love Audible. I listen to Audible a lot and I try, which is a book called Sapiens by Yuval Harari.
Yes, that is so good.
I love that book. This is my third time reading that book and I love it. And another thing, this is related to relationships for people who are searching for the right person. I recently read this book called Attached by Amir Levine and Rachel Hiller. It's about attachment laws. And so I needed that. And then I read this book called Talking to Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell.
Oh, good. Yeah. Oh, wonderful. So I have a book for you.
Awesome.
If you listen to, it might be 2 or 3 podcasts ago, Julie Owen.
Okay.
She wrote a book called We Are the Leaders We've Been Waiting For.
Mm-hmm.
And the book is about developing leadership in women.
Oh, nice.
And it's a wonderful read. I'm about 70 pages in and it's been incredible. And I'm learning a lot. So please listen to that podcast, but then also buy her book because I think it could inform some of your work.
Thank you so much. I will look it up.
Okay, I always have 3 words and for each guest. And if I know the guest, oftentimes I kind of share those 3 words at the beginning. My 3 words for you are she climbed Everest. And so now I am excited for us to continue this conversation because that's exactly how I'm going to start that episode.
All right. Sounds great. Perfect.
You keep up the good work. Thank you for the work that you're doing. You are an incredible, incredible person doing incredible work in the world. And thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you for having me.
You bet. What a fun conversation with Sara Safari. This is a woman who is making a difference in the world. She's challenging herself and she is changing the lives of others. She's pursuing her Ph.D. And when I think of Sara and I think of our conversation, so many concepts that we discuss as leadership educators come to mind. I think about perseverance, grit, vision, purpose, relationship, influence, achievement and getting results, integrity, and making a difference in this world. Sara, good work. I can't wait to continue this conversation and witness the incredible things that you accomplish. You have been listening to the Practical Wisdom for Leaders podcast. If you liked what you heard, please share it with others and let them know what we're up to. And one last quick reminder to click subscribe so you know when we publish new episodes. And of course, we'd love to hear your feedback. You can stay in touch with me by visiting www.scottjallen.net or any number of social media platforms. Be well, be safe, and make a difference wherever you are on this beautiful planet. And now, here's Kate's twin sister, Emily, with the outro.
You've been listening to Phronesis, Practical Wisdom with Scott Allen.